My name is retired Group Captain Ojikutu. I retired from the Air Force in 1996. I was trained as an air traffic controller as well as air defense controller. Before I left, I had a little experience in the civil aviation security because I worked at Murtala Mohammed Airport for almost 4.5 years before I left. I gained a lot of experience in how the civil aviation security works. And after I left, to improve my knowledge on it, I had to go to George Washington University in the USA. And between that time, I've been doing a lot of consultancy services, basically for the Nigerian civil aviation. Fun initially, before I jumped into the NCA when NCA was created in 2006. I've had external experience too. I was in Rwanda. I was in the team of IATA to go to Rwanda to assist in improving the aviation security there. I haven't done similar thing in Nigeria because I was in the team that prepared Nigeria for what everybody sees as Category 1 today. So, like I said, I've been doing quite a number of work, seminar, workshop for the various primary operators and at the same time with the allied services too. I think we are doing the wrong thing in aviation at the wrong time. And we are getting too involved, or those in the administration of the government are getting too involved in non-aeronautical services. If I take the terminal, MMA terminal, for example, which they are trying to reconstruct or refurbish, like they said, that was just one airport. Sorry, that is just one terminal out of about 4 terminals that were in the master plan of MMA. 4 international terminals that are in the master plan of the Murtala Mohammed Airport. We've just built the second one. Rather than putting money into the old one, why don't we look forward to build the third and probably the 4th terminal building? Secondly, this is a non-aeronautical facilities that does not put us into any search by IQ. I have always been saying that this terminal should be concession to the private companies. All the 22 terminals, both international and domestic, should be concession to the private. The Privatizations, Commercialization and Concession Act of 2000 explained this. And that's why they began with MM2, the domestic MM2. The terminal that was there before burnt down to ground zero. And they gave the concession of rebuilding it to who? They gave it to by company. That airport has been working till now. If they have any problem about it, let the regulator, let it come out and explain. So that terminal does not need the amount of money they are using to build it, 712 billion. The question to ask, does FAN earn that in a year? Does FAN earn 50% of that money in a year? From their records, from the records that they have been given to the public, does FAN earn 50% of that money? So why should government spend that money? Where is that money coming from? What is the source of the money that the people in the administration of the government are trying to use to build that? That is one. You talk about the runway at Abuja, still the same. The runway in Abuja in 2008, 2010, if I remember very well, when the present Imo State Governor was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Aviation, I was invited to come and help prove that the 64 billion that was allocated to that runway was sufficient. And I said 64 billion for 4-kilometer runway is too much. That translates to 16 billion for 1 kilometer or 16 million for 1 meter. They argued left, right, center between them and the management. They abandoned it. And they left it until, if I remember again very well, 2019 or 2020. The then minister, Senator Sirika, came up with his own estimate of about 90 billion, which again to me was too expensive. The question I asked is that, what is it that you are going to use to build this runway that does not exist in this country, that you are going to import? Practically nothing. Dangote has built so many roads that are stronger than most of the runways we have now with just ordinary cement and iron rod. So why don't you do that? Quantify it and see whether you are going to spend 10 billion. Sirika left. Now we have a new pharaoh, Abi? And they are now telling us that they are going to spend about 500 what? 500 something billion. I do not know what that means. I don't know what that entails. Having said that, before they start any second runway for Abuja, they had to go and read the report of a committee about 2006 on the second runway of Abuja Airport. Because of the mountains around Abuja Airport, the second runway was not meant to be at the present location of Abuja Airport, except they just want to waste money. Number two, into that, whether it's Abuja Airport or Lagos Airport, does the air traffic in these two airports justify second runway? Does the air traffic in these two airports really justify the second runway? How many runway have they got in Gatwick? Compare the traffic in Gatwick to Lagos or Abuja Airport. We don't have 50% of the traffic there, or even 10% or 20%. We don't. Because when you are talking of a Gatwick Airport now that has traffic going to nearly more than 500,000 anyway, traffic in a year. And the whole country here with 22 airports, we barely have 200 air traffic in all the 22 airports in this country. We can compare the traffic here even with South Africa. So when I see us spending money rather than to put our attention on the real aeronautical services, I get worried. It gives me the impression that those who are in the administration of these aviation systems have very little knowledge, especially the political office holders that they bring from outside to manage. And when those who are skilled that are inside hear them saying all these things, because they want to retain their job, they keep quiet. Aviation Ministry, let me tell you, Ministry of Transport and Aviation Ministry have a problem of authority, especially political authority in the management of these two ministries. You have a Ministry of Transport. What is aviation? Why should aviation be excluded out of the Ministry of Transport? The last administration did it. There was a time we have Minister of State for Aviation. I probably would not quarrel with that. But when you now have it exclusively of the Minister of Aviation, there is a problem. If you look at Minister of Aviation now, it's only railway that is here. The marine is out. Out of transport. It's out of transport. That's the one they gave a Connie name. Blue what? Blue economy. Marine is out. Aviation is out. So which other transport is left? Maybe road. And what? And railways. Those are the only two that are under the Ministry of Transport today. Having said that, there are 3 or 4 or 5 agencies that they put under the Ministry of Aviation. 5? About 5 or 6. You talk of FAN, you talk of NCA, you talk of NAMA, you talk of NISB, you talk of NCAT, you talk of NIMET. I can understand NCAA. I can understand FAN. I can understand NAMA and possibly NCAT. So the question is, NIMET, which has responsibility under the Ministry of Environment, because it's talking of climate. Climate is not only for aviation. As it is for aviation, it is for marine. Abi? So it is for Ministry of Agric. That is for NIMET. So why do you put it exclusively, only under aviation? There's money they are sharing there, you will get money. At the other agency, at the other ministry that is serving, would they not contribute to it? That's a depletion on the revenue in aviation. Similarly, NISB, that used to be AIB before, is also responsible for for accident investigation under all transport systems in the country, which include the railways, which include marine, which include road transports, is responsible. But it's sharing from the revenue in aviation. Are there provision for these two agencies in other areas where their services not only needed are provided? Do they have? Are they going to get the same percentage? Is anybody looking into the depletion on money in aviation that should go for essential aeronautical services? Like NAMA, for instance. When I talk about NAMA, it is either because I was a trained air traffic controller. But when you look at aviation, seriously, aviation services, safety services in particular, NAMA has more safety equipment than any of the agencies. There is no airport in this country that NAMA will have anything less than 4. You talk of the radio services, you talk of radar, you talk of navigational services. Each airport has it. By the time you multiply by the number of airports, that will tell you the number of equipment. Each of these equipment are supposed to have periodic maintenance. Some of them twice a year, some of them yearly. And the money are supposed to come from somewhere. So the problem is, I won't say whether they are well funded, because they are not, all of them. They are not well funded, not because there is no money generated by the services, but the records that we hear about the revenue generators is bad against the record of the traffic, both flight and passengers. What could be the reason? Corruption. No, it's corruption. I mean, look, aviation, two things about aviation. Is the most regulated safety, is the most regulated transport system about safety. Similarly with security. And the security in aviation, like I always say, is a function of the national security. Because every airport, particularly the international airport, they are border to the country. Because if you cannot cross through the physical border into the country, you enter the country through the air. And that is why the security of the airport must be completely different from what you are doing at the border. Because once you enter the airport, you're already in the country. It's NCA. It is NCA, nobody else, not the ministry. Why? It's the law that has set it up. The responsible aviation safety security of this country is NCAA. Nobody else. If there is a Ministry of Transport today, NCA is a king over all the operators, be they private, be they government. NCA should oversight FAN the same way he oversight NAMA, the same way he oversight every flight, every airlines. And there are other allied services, like the fuel marketers, like the cargo operators. They fall under the NCA oversight in terms of safety and security. Not the ministry, not the National Assembly. Because when the international body come, they come and talk to the responsible authority. They talk to NCA, not the minister. Not even to anybody in the National Assembly, whether speaker or whatever. They don't have anything to do with it. The same, if ICAO comes in here, they sit down with NCA. They open your books. And they want to see what you have done in the last 2-3 years in terms of safety and security, in terms of your recommendation. If there are recommendations you have made, how many of them have been implemented? Those are the things ICAO come here to do. If there are accident investigations and they make recommendations, how many have you implemented? If you have not implemented them, they write it down, give you time to go and do it. I said, okay, they are coming back in the next 30 days. They are coming back in the next 60 days. The time factor they give you that they are coming back determine your score. Determine your score. Unfortunately, I need to see the acts because they have been changing these acts left, right, center, so I may not be able to explain what the act says. between 2022 and now, because another review is going on. There was a review in 2022. The act came out, for instance, Civil Aviation Act came out in 2006, yeah. And between that time and now, the act has been reviewed about 3 times. Like I said, the ministry can appoint the MD with the approval of the president, or the president approve the MD with the recommendation from the minister. But the directors must grow progressively within the organization. I've been hearing stories of manager out, no. I'm a manager that professionals in the agency are only allowed to become AGM and GM and they retire them. Then you go and bring director from outside who have no knowledge. You can't do that in NCA, just like you cannot do that in NAMA. You can't. The only place you can do that is FAN, and that is why I said concession the non-aeronautical services. Because virtually everything that is under NAMA, they are all aeronautical services. It's only in FAN that you are going to see more of non-aeronautical services than aeronautical services. And the only aeronautical services that are under FAN, which again I have said should be excised out of FAN and handed over to NAMA, is the wrong way and the taxiway. Concession the airport and the apron, aircraft parking area there, concession them out. The only thing that is inside terminal building that may require not to be given out for concession is the security. The security defense layers in the terminal building for passengers and for baggage or cargo. Those are the only, but every other thing there, the terminal building, the shops, the restaurant, the car park, should go out for concession. But there will be a holding company. So FAN can be a holding company. FAN can be a holding company. Even in Britain and so many countries, the British Airport Authority before 1987 had about 11 airports. And at the end of the day, they concessioned all of them out, and the British Aviation became what? It became a holding company. So we can do the same thing here. Very profitable than what we are hearing in their reported earnings. I tell everybody, like I said in my book on NCA, revenue generation, like I said it in 2015, 2016, when I spoke to the DG then. They were surprised. Nobody should use any figure outside their own figure. Use their own figure. For instance, average of outbound international passenger, average is about 2 million. Average of international passengers alone, outbound, not inbound, outbound, which you collect $100 on. Calculate it. On 2 million, $100 on 2 million, calculate it. Transfer it to Naira. That will tell you how much. The last report that came out was 2.5 million outbound international passengers. Multiply by 200 Naira, that will give you $100, sorry. He'll give you a figure. International flights use average of 12,000. On the international flights, they charge landing and parking. They charge money for counter check. The counter they use in checking passengers, they charge money for it. They charge money for Avo Bridge. Add all of them together and multiply. It's more than 4,000. Like me, I use 4,000 to calculate that one for them. Dollars, no naira. Add what you get there, add it to what you get on the passenger, multiply it. What you get there is more than what they are telling you that they are getting. It's more than what they are telling you that they are getting in 22 airports, which does not include other allied services like car park, like office rent, like the money they collect from cargo, like the toll gates. It doesn't include all those ones. Just international airports, international passenger and flights alone. It does not even include the domestic flights. And like I said, concession them. Sit down. When you are going to give out your house for rent, you give it to what do you call them? Agent, Abi? Rent agent, Abi, what do they call them? You give it to him. You know how many rooms there, don't you? And you know how much each room will cost. You tell him how much. And whatever thing you're expecting, you know how much you're expecting. You know the percentage he's taking, you know the percentage you are getting. Somebody during Sirika time was going to give us $1 billion that time. $1 billion for 1 year, $30 billion for 30 years. I called him and said, hand it over completely. Because you don't make 50% of that money, you don't report that you earn that in a year. So if somebody comes from outside, there is something here that he wants to do. Take it, give us this amount of money. You will collect minimum 50% of that money from you, which you are not collecting from all the airports in a year. There is money in the airport, but whether they are giving you us accurate record is what we should find out. Based on the traffic. I use the traffic and their rate. It doesn't take me 5 minutes to get it. It doesn't. So, when you see people in the ministry interfering, putting oversight, rather than the NCA putting oversight, like I always say, Part 18 of the Nigerian CAS, Civil Aviation Regulation, Part 18 deals with all these commercial listing. And it requires all the operators, including FAN, to submit the record of their balance sheet every year to NCA. How many times has FAN done that? How many times has NCA requested that? There are so many things they need to do, including the airlines themselves. Before you come out with your ticket sale, you have to come out with the tariffs that make up your ticket sales for the approval of the regulatory agency. But do we do that? So the question is, with all this political interference, who is going to oversight even the NCA? Who? Is it the National Assembly? No, we have problem.